Welcome everybody to the Skill Development Playbook Podcast. I am your host, Coach TJ. This is actually the YouTube and the IGTV edition. It's just going to be a mini episode of me talking about different topics on skill development. It could be a shortened version of an episode that I've had. And so basically just what I want to do is I want to have something for the Instagram, TV, and also for YouTube. So I decided to do some mini episodes. This one here, of course, is being released today on a Friday, but I think I really want to try to release it on Thursday. So I believe the next one will be released on a Thursday. And it could just be a number of different topics I want to discuss and just kind of put out there and share some things with everybody. This is just something in addition to the podcast, and I've been getting some good feedback on the podcast, and I kind of wanted to have another avenue for people that's on IGTV and maybe go to my YouTube page and keep those platforms filled with some content. So today I am going to discuss with y'all very quickly skill stacking. Now, this is something that I had learned about a couple years ago, and it was really interesting to me. It intrigued me, and I began to read up on it some more and study a little bit more. And I noticed how basketball players, this is something that they really want to think about, and coaches need to think about. Coaches and trainers need to think about too when they are working with a player. So basically, skill stacking is adding skills that complement other skills. And I see this. I see a lot of times coaches and trainers are working with players and they're kind of jumping around from one thing to another. One skill doesn't really relate to another skill, or it may be more of a player could have a skill, and instead of that coach doing skill stacking and trying to get them a skill to complement the skills that they already have, they're trying to make them do things that really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You've heard me say before that real skill development is a process and it's a plan. And in order to put together a plan, you got to really understand where you are as a player, where you're going, and how you want to get there. So let's look at this real quickly, a little bit about skill stacking. So let's say you have a player that's a shooter. They're a known shooter, not a great ball handler. They're not great at creating their own shot. Now, they can catch and drive straight to the basket, but they're not going to cross anybody, or they're not going to really change directions and these other different things. So they're really good at shooting. They can spot up and shoot. They can shoot off the move. They know how to relocate off penetration, and they can get those type of shots. So a skill that will complement that, or if you're going to skill stack with this player, then you want to have the ability to handle the ball. So this creates the ability for them to create their own shot, handle the ball versus pressure. And when you become known as a shooter, a lot of coaches will say, "Hey, we don't want him spotting up and shooting. We don't want him to catch a shot. We want him to run. We want to run him off his spot. We want to run him off his sweet spot." So now, if that player has the ability to attack with his dribble and use his dribble as a weapon, now he's become a little bit more difficult to guard. He's become more of a challenge to contain, because if you do run him off his spot, he has the ability to make a play with his dribble. And so one thing that you would want to do is you want to skill stack the ball handling and the shooting. So if that player is really good at spotting up, catching and shooting, shooting off penetration, or shooting on the move, if he now can add the ability to create off the dribble, and it doesn't have to be create like a Kyrie or a Steph Curry, but if he can catch And even if it's catch and they close out hard and he can make a hard move and then maybe a change of direction into a finish. If he catches on the wing and he dribbles down, he can make a change of direction into a pull-up. Even if it's just that, then the defense has to have another level of respect for him because now he can do some things off the dribble. Okay. It makes them more of a threat, right? It adds value to their game. So if I'm working with a player and they have their shooting down and we're looking at adding skills or abilities to their game, then I'm going to look at their ball handling. I'm going to say, well, how good is your ball handling? Let's look and see if we can add that aspect to your game. If you can add ball handling to your game, it really opens up a whole nother level, a whole new window. And then from there, depending on how you progress, we can add other skills on top of that. So I'm going to wrap up with this, but here's something I want you to think about. I was listening to a podcast, and it was similar to this, a mini episode, and they were actually talking about this, but they weren't talking about it in the basketball sense. But they were saying that you don't have to be the top 1% in one skill, but wants to be 1% of mixed skills. Okay, so let me say that one more time. You don't have to be the top 1% in one skill. An example, shooting, ball handling, passing, being able to create. You don't want to be the 1% in one skill. You want to be the 1% in mixed skills. So here's a perfect example. You can look at LeBron James versus Kyle Korver. Kyle Korver is probably one of the best shooters in the NBA. Arguably, just without putting much thought into it, I would say he's probably anywhere between, he's in the top 10 shooters. I'll just like I said, not thinking about it and not really breaking it down, just thinking, okay, who's some of the top shooters? Kyle Korver comes to mind. When you talk about the top 1% in mixed skills, the first name that comes to your mind is going to be LeBron James. And he is arguably the best player, in my opinion, he is, but he's arguably the best player on the planet, the best player in the world. So when I heard that and I got to thinking about it, like, man, that makes a lot of sense. Kyle Korver is not going to take you off the dribble. He's not going to go to the rim and dunk on you, but he's in the top 1, 2, maybe 3% when it comes to shooters in the NBA. LeBron James on his team is not the best shooter. He's not the best ball handler. He's not always the best rebounder. He's not always the best defender. He's typically one of the best passers, but he's not the best, quote unquote, at every skill. But when you put those skills together, he's the top 1% of mixed skills of any player or players in the NBA. So when I saw that, when I heard it, and it really made me think, and I said, man, that makes a lot of sense. So coaches, when you're working with players, make sure that you are really, really trying to get them skills that complement each other. Players, when you're working on your game, and if you know you're a great ball handler, you got to say, okay, I'm a great ball handler. What can I do? What skill can I add to complement my ball handling? And it may be spot shooting or shooting on the move or shooting off the dribble, but trying to find those skills that complement each other, and you will see your game go to a whole nother level. So that's all I have for skill stacking. Again, I will be releasing this episode on YouTube and Instagram or IGTV. Then it will also be, I was going to release something today, which is on a Friday, but it will be released on Thursdays from here on out. Don't forget, if you want to connect with me, I am on Twitter at NBNBball. I am on Instagram at NBNBball. You can connect with me on, of course, YouTube. Search Nothing But Net B-Ball. And if you need something, if you have a question about skill development or you need some advice or some directions, don't be afraid to reach out to me. My email is coachtj@nbnbball.com. You can check out my website. I have a blog, and also my podcast is also on my website. And my website is nbnbball.com. So until next week, I'll see y'all. God bless.